Fear not, denizens, parade is here, aka the bringer of rain, aka father of the sea and sun, aka king of the core. And today, before I introduce my very special guest, I want to welcome you all to the Core Creators Podcast, where I interview creators across the HoloNet. And today, we have none other, the return of the Galactic Holoscanner, the sorcerer of scenes, Burgundy 20, the Burgundy Squad. We have D from Holoscan's Database. How are you today?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me back.
Of course. Is fun. Yeah, dude, it's always a pleasure to have an infamous magical photographer in our midst. I was telling you before we recorded that you're one of the ones who we mentioned pretty much in every podcast now. It's like you and Billy and Kate in some way, friends of the show will be mentioned in this podcast. And yeah, it feels like it's been forever since I had you on. And they were just catching up with you. It's so great. I'm so glad, and I'm hoping the viewers are happy to have you back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me back. Yeah, a lot has happened in a very short span of time.
Yeah. It feels like a year ago, but it was only like maybe a couple months ago when I had you on, and you've been real busy. But selfishly, I have you on this podcast to talk about your experience at Halcy-Con. So I had Adam on, who introduced like his prep for going, and then since we're like about a week out, I had him recap from the vendor side. But I wanted to get what you did as a visitor and how your trip went, how your experience went. Because if I'm not mistaken, you didn't get to go on the Galactic Star Cruiser, the actual experience, but you got to go to the con, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Myself and Kate actually never had the opportunity to go to the Star Cruiser itself, mostly just because of timing.
Sure.
By the time I got into like hardcore bounding and getting into Star Wars and original characters, it was like I got the tail end of it, and then it announced the closure, and
right.
I quite literally missed the ship.
Well, a lot of us did. We all thought it was going to be continuing, and I was like, okay, I'll save my pennies and I'll eventually go. But that final call was actually a pretty big surprise. But yeah, how was day one? Or let's start with this. How did you prep for going?
So for going,
like costume wise, or
yeah, absolutely. My costume's pretty easy. A lot of our group went with like multiple costumes.
Yeah.
Like 5, 6 different, outfits, and I had like two, and, a poncho variant, like a poncho on, poncho off, and it kind of lends to my character, I think.
Yeah.
Because I even would joke around about the idea of going on Star Cruiser, and I thought like, I don't knock it, but I would see people at the gala and doing all these things and extravagant wardrobes, and I'm like, hey, my character is this like scrappy photographer in space, and he wears a poncho. I never saw my character ever dress up like to be a fancy costume or anything like that. So I even would think like if I would ever go on the ship or anything like that, I'm pretty low key compared to a lot of people's outfits. So it was pretty easy. It was kind of like my day to day. I'm pretty simple, like minimalist when it comes to a lot of my clothing already.
Oh yeah.
So I just kind of took the base of my costume, and then I had a few alterations that I changed depending on the weather. So
nice. Yeah. I kind of approach it in the same way. I'm like, if I was like, I don't know if my character, he's very down to earth. I don't think he would have like a suit. If he did, it would be for like, it would be for like maybe a funeral, if that.
Yeah.
Like nothing too extravagant.
Yeah. I think the fanciest thing I had was like in my recent photos I posted when I was on Batuu, I have like a red and gray poncho.
Yeah.
Probably the fanciest thing I had. And then thankfully at the event, I kind of came across this really cool piece that a friend of mine, actually Aletta from Burgundy Squadron,
Yeah.
was there vending, and they were doing a bounding swap that I was helping Kate from One Standard Wardrobe. And when we were there, coincidentally, brought this really cool sleeveless tunic, and I loved it, and immediately was like, can I take that? Can I?
Yeah, yeah.
So it was kind of cool. So I actually added a piece of my character, or at least an alteration of clothing, the trip. So it was kind of coincidental. So it's cool.
Yeah. That's rad. That's rad. Yeah. What, future plans. We're gonna have Kate on the show and talk about what she experienced. And I was actually really curious about that swap because that sounds like a really cool idea, of like maybe some piece that you might not fit anymore or want anymore, and maybe you've got enough like pictures and photos and looks. Yeah, that was a really cool idea. I'm glad they did something like that there.
Yeah, it
Um,
was really cool.
yeah. So, what did you do day one? What was your day one like?
Oh, okay, so day one, I mean, I essentially got there on Thursday.
Oh, okay.
That night they had I think it was only for a select few.
Mm.
They had kind of a dinner, like nighttime event. I didn't end up attending that one. Someone ended up finding a ticket for me, but I was kind of totally jet lagged. I was just really
Yeah.
tired that night. So
Yeah.
Adam and Kate and a few of the other people that we're with, they ended up going. And I think I just stood in my hotel room and I was planning for the content I was going to be making the rest of that week. So I
Mm-hmm.
just was on my laptop and kind of working story crafting stuff that I ended up
Yeah.
working on later.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then Friday itself
Mhm.
was a official day of the con.
Right.
That was like a whirlwind. That was the most intense thing, and I think I ended up. Kate and I were talking about it, where we've all been to conventions. You know, you go to LA Comic Con or that, and we're used to seeing a handful of people, if that, that we know,
Mm-hmm.
and then a sea of people that are kind of the normies, the
Yeah.
people like that are just gonna go attend and they want to see stuff and buy things.
Yeah.
And this was not that. This was quite literally everyone that was there did something. They were cosplayers, they were content creators, they were creatives, whatever it was. It was the craziest thing because you're like, I know you, I know you. Oh my gosh, I know you. Like, it was really interesting. So I think that alone was it was a very collective group of people, which was really interesting.
Yeah, that is really cool. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you went to the Halcyon, you're probably gonna fall into one of those groups, right? Where it's like you're so into Star Wars where you want to dress up and be an immersive experience, or you're like a vendor, like Adam is. But yeah, that's so cool. Did you happen to um, meet any people that you know from online that you never met before in person?
I bumped into, I mean, I did, yeah. I met plenty of people that I met in person. Um, there's almost too many,
Yeah.
like for me to them off the top of my head.
Sure,
I
sure.
did see some people that I've met before, like Sarah and Steven from Princess and
Scoundrel. Yeah.
Scoundrels. I met them again because
Cool.
I initially worked with them before
Oh, nice.
on a shoot, and then there was a lot of people I got to see again,
Yeah.
and then there were a lot of people that I had the privilege of meeting for the first time. So it was really nice. And it was funny too because a lot of them we've kind of had conversations. We've had this internet interaction,
Yeah.
which was cool. When you meet them, you're like, hey, like there, it felt like you have known them for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that community in general is so warm and so inviting that it really felt kind of like this camaraderie of just like not not awkward at all. Like,
Mm.
hey, how are you? Oh, it's nice to see you. So that was kind of very special, to have to have been able to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. So, how did you fill your day? Did you do like shopping? Did you do panels? What did you do? What did you end up doing?
So for that day, I essentially did help a few of the squadron members with a few things. Like in the morning, like Adam had his booth. I helped him take some stuff to the booth, and then pretty much I was kind of going around meeting people, saying hi, giving out greeblies that I was giving out, some like little data tips that I give away.
Oh, nice.
Stickers. I had exclusive stickers for that event, and it was kind of like meet and greets. It was a lot of just meeting everybody and hanging out. I got to go to a handful of panels that Kate and Adam were in, which was really cool to see them on stage, which was really nice to see them like fulfilling that part of them
Yeah.
to like be able to talk in front of people. And I got to do some really selfish things, which was
Well, yeah. I mean, tell us about it.
I did lightsaber training, which was like a Saja.
I don't know where those. By the way, I don't know where those come from.
Do they do it? Like, does it?
I think
does it do all of them?
Oh, I don't know. I was assuming that because we record on. I mean, from some behind the scenes, we're recording on Discord, and I think people can see, maybe are clicking stuff. Oh, or
no, it's going off of me.
Oh,
that's what it is.
Hands gestures.
I think somebody did it recently to you, and you were like, I don't know why it did that.
It was Womp Rat. Yeah, there was like balloons.
Yeah, I don't know what you did. It's like a gesture.
This will be good for the bloopers. But maybe mine doesn't work. I don't know.
It's weird. Yeah, so I got to do lightsaber training, which you know me, I'm not the best lightsaber person, but
you probably put in more time than the rest of us if we had to throw down.
I geeked out really hard with that. The lightsaber training, I got to attend 2 workshops that I was so happy that I was able to attend them, because I'm not an actor, but I have in high school and middle school I have kind of a good amount of acting. I was in drama and theater for a while.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what helped kind of nurture being in front of camera or working with people in front of camera, storytelling in general.
Yeah.
So when I was there, I ended up being able to work in a workshop that was essentially, hard to explain, but it was immersive theater, like training.
Okay.
Which was I can't remember his name now. This lovely gentleman, Jeff something.
Yeah.
But he was the teacher, and he's part of an organization that does immersive theater. I believe they worked with a lot of the parks. They essentially train actors, like if you were to go to like any park where they have interactive characters, or like the princesses at at the parks. So it was a very short class, but he essentially taught us how to stay in character and live in that world of not breaking, which was the coolest thing to me.
Yeah.
Because we all go to Galaxy's Edge. We all go, some of us have gone to like LARPing, and now that's becoming more of a thing for Star Wars. And it was so interesting to find the skills of being able to quite literally stay in your character and interact and not have a script, but in a sense build off of interaction.
Yeah, like kind of like
so
an
that
improv.
Was really fun.
Like
basically you had different skills that they gave you where someone's talking to you, how do I add information, how do I you're essentially just building off of the interaction and staying in that character. So I was able to do that workshop, which I freaking so privileged to do that.
That sounds right.
It felt like it felt like a masterclass thing where I was like, oh my, this is so cool. And then I also did another improv class, which and then improv class, and then what did I do? The next morning, going into Saturday, but I'll stop there. But going into Saturday in the morning, I was getting up, and they had a Saja, which is like a Jedi meditation. So it was really nice. It was like yoga, but in space. No, but it was really cool. Like, especially when it was like that week was so overstimulating.
Yeah.
It was a nice way of like chilling out, but still being Star Wars. So
Yeah. That sounds cool. How did the I wanted to ask about like the lightsaber training. How does that instruction for the class go? Because it's not like you just, you know, you just twirl or whatever. Is it
yeah,
like, oh, this
we
form, that form?
used yeah they just threw like lightsabers in front of us and they were like fight to the death.
Yeah. And you made it out. You're the only one who made it
And we made it out. Everyone, it was it was like I harnessed my inner Annie. No, I had never done lightsaber training.
Yeah.
It was kind of mimicking, I think, what the lightsaber training was on the Star Cruiser.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So it was very, very similar. It was what I really appreciated is that, and I feel bad that I didn't make a list because there's a lot of the instructors or people that I follow now,
Mm.
but they essentially kept everyone in character.
Yeah.
So it's as if you're being trained by Saja or Jedi.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to actually to have them talk to you, go through the history of the Force,
Yeah.
our connection with the Force, and you know, I was kind of laughing at it in the sense of being all of us. Everyone in that room was grown adults, and we're sitting there. And at first, you're like, okay, this is fun, right? We're all dressed up. I was in costume, so
Yeah. Yeah.
we're interacting and doing this whole thing, and they're teaching us how to defend and attack and choreograph everything. Just kind of, almost like everyone is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And there was a little segment in it where they have us take a kyber crystal, which is it's essentially white at the time,
Okay.
and it's the story is that it's from Ilum, and we take it and we put it in a little bag and close it up. And watching this happen, right? It's in a box, and it was essentially it's everything's a parlor trick, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's essentially like I saw it coming, right?
Sure.
It's a white crystal, and it's under a heat lamp, right?
Mm.
So most likely as it cools, something's gonna happen.
Yeah. Change
And I
color.
saw it. I knew it. I saw it. I saw it happen. I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. It's gonna turn a color or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just having fun doing the lightsaber training. When we get to the segment, we're all talking about everything, sitting on the floor, almost like meditating, and they break the like. Now look at your crystal, and this is like during the segment of like harness the force,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like I lost it. I knew it was coming. We all
Yeah.
did,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was just like your childhood just punched you in the gut,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I found myself getting emotional,
Wow.
and I was like sitting there like I know this is like we're make believe. This is all fun. We're
Yeah.
It's fantasy, but I think and I'm sure Adam probably touched on it. I never got to experience the Star Cruiser, which
Mm-hmm.
I know was a very intense experience. Um, but I think being in a room constantly, like during that weekend, with people that connect to Star Wars and put so much of themselves into Star Wars,
Yeah.
and we've talked about this before, where I appreciate and geek out on people that do that
Mm-hmm.
because it's very much themselves into their characters, into whatever story they're telling, and you kind of see attribute or parts of their life bleed into that
Right.
naturally.
Right.
So you see if they're going through hard times or stress, and you can innately feel that. So I think having those moments was surprising, but also not surprising.
Yeah.
Like I said at that point, and the instructor they did such a great job with the storytelling, and it was fun, and it was. But in the end of the day, we were just in a room.
Yeah.
But having that moment of like feeling like a kid and feeling like the force is real when it's not real, but feeling that pure like awe in yourself was like so intense and so cathartic in a sense.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the theme of that entire event and weekend.
Right. Yeah, no, that's super interesting because from you explaining it, it sounds like there's like-minded people in this space, creatives, intelligent people, right? And usually when it comes to fandoms, you feel like an outsider around main society, but now you guys are all there for the love of the fandom, and you allow yourself to lean in with other people who are also leaning in, and it becomes more of like this that energy, right? Like kind of that specialness there. Because I've been to conventions, and when people come up and they say, "Oh, like they know what my costume is," or they know, like it's like a very niche character, but they have that like big appreciation for it. They'll say like, "I never see people in this costume. You look amazing," and all that stuff. But everyone still feels isolated in their fandoms. But that's what I was when watching like the Halcyon videos on YouTube of people going and enjoying Star Wars together. I feel like that's probably what it's like. And then going to this Halcy-Con that you and Kate and Adam got to
Yeah.
experience. It's like he was saying it was like the just a step down. It was still great, but it was recapturing that because the other thing doesn't exist, right? And I'm glad there is an homage to it still, and I hope they do maybe another con and maybe it grows, you know, in the future. But yeah, that's so cool, man. I'm actually happy that you broke down because like you said, you knew the trick was coming, but even just to allow
Yeah.
yourself to enjoy it, because I think for me, or even like sometimes when I'm critical over movies or things that I'm consuming, it's hard to not put the logical like lines together, the gears, like okay, this is how that works, like I get it. But when you can just kind of like enjoy it, I think that just makes like experiences that much better.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty much what, Kate and I, the nice part is that we were able to talk about that weekend and that experience because we had a very unique viewpoint
Yeah.
where we had nothing to go off of. We there was no reason for us to have attachments or emotions, or
Mm.
it was just like, let's go to this thing because we know people there
Yeah.
and we are very much part of the community adjacent,
Yeah.
and because of what we do. And I think I was just I wanted to see like I wanted to see it. I was curious,
Yeah.
see what the big deal is.
Yeah.
And I think it's everyone always talks about that place for the Star Cruiser being, oh, it happened again.
The lights.
It's so ridiculous. Hold on. Hey Google, turn on living room lamp. That's my wife every time.
She's like, no more podcasting.
Just go to bed. Uh,
Get off the
um,
podcast with your friends. It's time to go to sleep. You got school in the morning.
oh, babe, but we're talking about Star Wars.
Just 5 more minutes. Just 5 minutes.
Um, yeah. So what was I? So
The experience.
that I think a lot of people, not that it wasn't a special experience, but I think what it did is it wasn't the place that made, I guess, the magic,
Yeah.
or it was essentially what extracted people, if that makes sense. It was like the tool that was necessary for people of a certain type, and um, you know, just yeah, those special people that have kind of been, like you said, stuck in their own fandom, afraid to come out of the, you know, out of their corner, their niche, like their little cove, and it gave them the tools to say, no, you're not silly. This isn't silly. This is cool. You're this character. We're backing you completely. We're building your confidence, and I think that's what made that experience life changing to a lot of people because it gave them that um, validation and that respect to do that, and I think that's why they've never let it go too,
Yeah.
because of that.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so many places you can go. Like it's Batuu East, Batuu West, and then Halcyon, Wish, I guess, to a smaller portion. But yeah, there's not many outlets, right?
Yeah, but even like Batuu East and West, like you've been, I
Mm,
go constantly. Um, it's still immersive, but it's not. It's
not everyone's
there's
bought in.
holes. Yeah, not everybody's bought in,
Yeah.
and then you're you're in a theme park that you're seeing normal people with Mickey Mouse ears,
Right.
and you know you're not able to fully be in it.
Yeah.
And I can see how if you already feel connected to Star Wars, um, at on Batu, when you have a fraction of that, I can only imagine what it is to be inside a spaceship
Mm-hmm.
where nothing you can see is out of universe, and everyone you talk to is in the character and talk to you in character. Like you're in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Like you're in you're in a simulation,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was a big kind of a big theme of Holoscan itself, that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the creators that were Tamils, doing just education,
Mm-hmm.
they were dipping into specialization or specializing immersive theater and entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
and like it was cool to see how just from that convention itself, even if it's not Star Wars, that's where entertainment's heading. Like
Mm, facts.
that was kind of a very enlightening thing to witness, that like, okay, this is where we're going. Like we're going this direction, which is gonna just create these insane experiences.
Yeah. I mean, that's what people are kind of doing now, right? I mean, even myself, I'm like, I want to experience more. I want to travel more. I want to meet, because we're so involved online, right? There's that
Yeah,
we're missing the kind of the socialization aspect of real life, of just talking to people and having these shared experiences. I'm glad that Star Wars is one of those things where it can kind of bring us back together. I mean, even like Burgundy Squad, right? And finding, like we said this in many in podcasts before, finding like-minded people again who like our fandom, and now on another level, like being able to interact with people who are creatives like yourself. We Adam, Kate, we mentioned a bunch, Billy. It's cool to see like their strengths and then like learn off of you guys for what you guys do, and hopefully this podcast for other people, and maybe learn something new and grow my skills that I probably wouldn't have grown without being on social media, really. And it's good and bad, but the parts of it, but making the best of it, and finding the positive people, the good people, like it's really it's a huge thing. Like we didn't have this 10 years ago, right? Like
yeah.
it's insane. Anything else on the second day that you were able to experience?
The second day was, I feel like it was, most of the days. I mean, they were filled with panels. They were
Mm.
filled with interactive experiences. My second day was a lot more relaxed, so I didn't have as much scheduled that day.
Oh,
So I
okay.
did a lot of my already interactive stuff. In the morning, I did the meditation training,
Nice.
um, and then I pretty much just wandered around, saw friends, saw
Mm-hmm.
people that I knew, um, and just enjoyed the event itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, yeah. Like I'm just rewinding it in my brain. There was so much
Yeah.
going on. I think the highlight for a lot of people at that event was um, kind of the night event that they had. It was kind of the wrap up for Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
They had kind of like a ballroom. They had music playing, like bar, stuff like that. Just,
Very
it was
cool.
kind
Yeah.
of just like hang out. Let's all go hang out and go to this
Yeah.
thing. And I almost didn't go because I was so socially drained. Because it takes me a while to like, I'm very introverted,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I was pretty burnt out. And
Yeah.
then Kate and Adam went, And then I was like on my laptop, and if I don't go, I'm gonna be mad
Yeah.
the next day. Just because not so much for like the fun. It was more of just like I traveled, I went to this thing,
Mm-hmm.
I want to see it, I want to interact with it. I want to kind of absorb the experience.
Yeah.
So got dressed, got all Star Wars and went out. Met up with everybody, which was really fun. And it was it was insane. In the sense that I think I messaged on the chat in Burgundy Squadron, and this one point of the night where everyone's on the dance floor, and they're all having a good time, and I was standing next to one of our group, and um, I'm looking at a DJ and all this stuff, right? So it's cool. It's like all right, and I like look over, and I swear I pan over into the crowd, and I just see all these people dressed in Star Wars and just having a good time. And as I'm looking, I look down, and R2D2 is dancing, and I lost my mind. And I remember like recording it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then sending it just that real quick,
Yeah.
just just R2 in the crowd. And then I messaged everybody, am I having a fever dream? But it was just like as an adult to realize you're at an event
Mm-hmm.
for Star Wars and everyone having a good time and doing their thing and have a droid rolling around.
Yeah.
And it's just we live in such a weird and awesome time.
Yeah.
Like it's freaking weird. Like this is the guy that I hyperfixate on Star Wars and storytelling and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But for me to be like, this is wild.
Yeah.
Like so it's cool. So it I think that for that night, and I was telling Adam, like that was very it was very cathartic, which I was
Mm.
surprised because it was very emotionally loaded.
Mm-hmm.
I think this was kind of Kate and I had talked about it where um, with both of our backgrounds we kind of have experience with like people that go through traumatic experiences or um, you know being how would we put it like debriefed on situations that are very intense.
Yeah.
And what we noticed is that the Star Cruiser really didn't seem to have a debriefing at all.
Mm.
I don't think they ever planned for that, and I also don't think they ever expected that to be an issue.
Yeah.
And everyone that I talked to that was at the event that had been on the Star Cruiser more than once, I asked them like, on the last day, how did it end? And they're like, it kind of just ended.
Yeah.
I'm like, so you lived 2 days in Star Wars. You made these bonds with people, whether they're the crew, characters, or people that you just met, and then it dropped off. Like reality just was like, okay, guys, time to get back to normal life. But I'm
Yeah.
like, ah, our brains aren't made
Yeah.
to hit cold water like that.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, especially at this event, knowing that they already had so many deep attachments and connections, and then not only being told that hey it's over, but being told that it will never exist again, as far as they
Yeah.
know. So
Hmm.
it was a time of like, in a sense, mourning for people.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the event itself was so full of people that were full of joy and so happy and just happy they had their friends with them. But also, it was like this, you could feel this release of people like being okay finally. And I told Adam at the end, I don't know if he told you at all, but I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but at the end of the night, music's already over, party's over, everyone, going home and everything. We're all gonna get back to the rooms and everything. And so many people were just crying.
He did mention.
Like it
Yeah,
was,
he did mention that.
it was very like I got it. Like I understood it, and I like being somebody that like, you know, not to get too personal in my life, but
Sure.
like I'm identified as someone that's empathic, so
Mm.
I tend to vibe off of people and
Yeah.
understand like if you're uncomfortable or you're not feeling well, I can kind of feel it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was like very heavy in the air, and I think the one that got to me was Adam, and specifically Addison, which she was a sweetheart that we met her. She is part of Adam and Kate's book club. Just seeing them like break down, like really feeling it, and like you
Yeah.
didn't even have to say anything. It was one of those like you see a friend crying, and I didn't even have to say it. It was such a crazy experience to see them go through that, but also in a sense feel what that felt like.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the night, like we literally, I just like I've met Adam twice, and I remember just seeing him crying, and I just grabbed him and gave him a hug,
Oh yeah.
and it was just one of those like I can't explain that,
Yeah.
but you could just feel people going through a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and like that event itself was so there's so many highs and so many lows, but it was all positive. Like everyone, you know, they knew why they were there,
Yeah.
so it was definitely an experience. Like no one's gonna cry at Comic Con. nobody's nobody's gonna do that. Like it wouldn't happen. Like it's you know they're it's different. It's a different experience.
Yeah. I mean,
So
even
yeah,
you talking about the debriefing part of like going on the Halcyon and then, hey, go back to your regular jobs. Here's your suitcases. Go outside, and then now real life is hitting you. Like that is pretty jarring. But what's cool about this event is it is kind of like either someone's end cap, right? Like, okay, we get to do this like a little bit. It's not exactly the same, but we get to enjoy this together. But then also there's actually a little bit of hope of like, hey, maybe we could do this every other year, or maybe we can do this in a few years again, or make new connections with people. But yeah, that's beautiful, man. Like I thought that's so cool that you got to not only be there to feel that and experience that with them, or even have like a unique experience for yourself with your
yeah.
perspective.
No, but the event was all I can say about it is that it was very much a privilege to be able to witness all of that,
Yeah.
and I think that was what I really took away from it. Is yeah, I mean, you know, we could all be excited about this and that, like the lightsaber training, all that. It was super cool, but I think the core of that event um, had a lot of heart behind it, and it was very like I said. All I can say is like privileged to be there, especially because I never got to be on the cruiser, to meet all these lovely people, to you know have bonds with people, feel like I've known them forever, and
Yeah.
quite literally just met many of them. So it's very special community, at least what you know what I can see.
Was this the first time you met Kate in person?
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah. First time I met Kate, second time I met Adam in person,
Yeah.
and then Addison and Chelsea were the um, two others that were in their book club, and
Yeah.
then I met them for the first time. And yeah, that everyone was super cool. And a bunch of other people that I got to meet for the first time
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I've just interacted with on Instagram.
Yeah. 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 That's so rad, man. It's a even though it's a weird time, it is a cool time. In the opposite, where when you meet someone for the first time that you've had these, relationships on social media where you're like DMing or seeing their
Yeah,
posts every day, liking their posts, and those parasocial relationships actually are pretty strong. And sometimes I have to reel it back. I'm like, oh, this person doesn't know me. like, oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah, D knows me. Like, we make these jokes. We
It was weird though because granted, you know, I'm I'm very not aware of a lot. like I don't hate a lot. It was strange for me um, that people knew who I was.
Yeah, you're a celebrity
It
now,
was
man.
no, no,
They're like, yeah, wait, you're D
it
from
was,
Raincore, right? From the
it was
Raincore podcast.
yeah, yeah. You're that guy with the better guy.
No,
You with Raincoat. Who are you? You were just on the get out of here. They're like, we want him here.
no, 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 no.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was really weird to have that. There were people like, "Hey, you're Holoscan Database. Like, you know, I like your." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
dude.
thank you. Like, that's cool." So, you know, it was funny. It was a weird experience for me.
Yeah, man,
Oh,
you're infamous when we anyone talks about photography, like even on Womp Rats. I was like, hate that guy. He's
he's a
so nice.
sweetheart.
And no,
I
you're talking
love
about
that guy.
you.
No, I'm saying I love that guy. So nice.
Oh yeah,
So
dude, Womp Rat's awesome, man. I'm so glad. That was the first time I talked to him, so that was awesome.
he always he always hypes me up too.
Yeah,
Oh man, I'm like, dude, you're rad. I love your stuff.
yeah.
He's cool.
There's too many rad people. Too many creatives. Too many awesome creatives. What can you tell us about? It dropped today, but what can you tell us about the photo shoot that you and Kate and I and Grayson did, man?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Before I ask you,
yeah,
those were some of my favorite photos. I mean, there's a little bit of bias because I talked to Adam and Kate a lot, but
yeah.
what a blessing in disguise to have rain there and flooding in a Disney park.
Yeah.
Like
It,
when would you have opportunity to do that? Like I thought that was the coolest.
yeah, it was funny because when we first got to the park, so that was Sunday morning.
Yeah.
We got to the park. When we got there, it was my first time in in that area. It was pouring, pouring so heavy when we got there. We're completely soaked, and you go to check in. I laughed because I go to the security, and it's like, hey, okay, sorry, we needed to take all of this off, and I'm full bounding gear. I got my bag on, everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, cool, no problem. I'm trying to accommodate, take it all off. It's a lot of layers, trying to get it back on. And
Yeah.
so what was cool is the security guard was really nice. You could tell he was a Star Wars fan. So he's
Oh,
like,
cool.
"What's this? What's this? What does that do?" And I'm like, "Oh, cool. You love Star Wars. You're
Yeah,
cool."
yeah.
And he was no problem. So he's a really nice guy. And we get there, and I can see so many people's faces that they're like, "Oh," and I'm like, "It's raining." From a photographer standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
the worst thing you want is a sunny day,
Mm,
truthfully. And that's just me. I
yeah.
mean, no, not me, but it's when, especially for the style that I shoot
Yeah.
in the universe of Star Wars, in that lens of Star Wars, you want messiness.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want it to look clean. You want things to look worn and your clothing to be damp. To like, that's why in film sets they dirty people up, and
Yeah.
especially Star Wars. I mean, everything's weathered,
Yeah.
so nothing looks clean. And I think having that lighting and saturation of things was perfect. It was perfect. I was like a kid in a candy store. I was like, cool. This is the most fun I'm having.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and then having a different backdrop too. Like California, we don't have the AT-AT stuff like that. So
Oh,
that was
right.
super
Yeah,
rad.
yeah, yeah.
Stuff like that. I just stood staring at the AT-AT for like 5 minutes, just like happy.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I forgot. I mean, I
um,
haven't been to Florida in so long. That's there. Do they still have the speeder
yeah,
bike there too?
I think they might, but I don't
Okay.
think. I think we walked by it. Like
Okay.
we kept going or whatever. But I wasn't sure if they did. I keep saying this. Like every project I'm doing, it seems like everyone I'm like, that's my favorite. That's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
That's my like. It's just, which is like, I'm super blessed for that. I look at it, I'm like,
Yeah.
just from a my like standpoint, I'm like, that came out good. Like, I'm proud of it. I even
Yeah.
told them too. They're like, oh my god, we loved it. And I'm like, no, I'm legitimately proud of that too. That was fun.
That's yeah, dude. The amazing, the stuff you guys pulled off. Again, just hyping you guys up all the time. But it's because I know you guys care. I mean, Kate has like some of the greatest costuming. I don't know how she does her output of just like costume after
Yeah,
costume after costume, and
yeah,
just
insane.
and just the storytelling Adam takes with his costume and how he thinks of Iron Grayson, and then like how purposeful he is, and you being able to capture the creativity of the story, and them coming up with just some of the most creative shots I've seen in a while, right? And your Instagram is full of them. capturing these moments or creating these moments. I think it's fantastic, dude. I can't
man.
praise you guys
Really
enough. I got to put you on the spot. Batuu East or Batuu West?
Oh, oh man. I thought this was going to be an easy question. It's actually
Oh,
not.
I'm
Right.
surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised it's a question for you.
Okay. And I think it's because of the day I went. But I think it made it better. Because, okay, Batu West for the build, hands down.
Okay.
Planning, hands down. You walk into Batu, you still feel like Star Wars. You walk out of Batu, you still feel like Star Wars. East, not so much. You walk out, you see Buzz Lightyear. Not right.
He's Star Wars. He's space.
He's space. We'll give him that. But what did make that day so special was the fact that the weather was insane, and it made everything feel and look, and even we're in Southern California.
Yeah.
You get a lot of climates. Trees aren't green as down there. I think when you did see plant life, it was like beautiful. It was definitely really nice. So I'm still gonna go with Batu West for sure.
Yeah,
Batu West always. But East was, I think I enjoyed the experience itself. Like it was really 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 cool to go and see it and see the layout.
Yeah.
Have you been?
Not to East, no.
Okay. What weirded me out, I think the most, is the fact that and granted the park is bigger.
Yeah.
The paths so wide. Like they're almost double the width of at West when you're kind of just walking out of the market and you start heading to the resistance space. It's like a little windy.
Yeah.
No, it's wide.
Oh, interesting.
And everything's spread out, which feels weird.
Yeah.
And I kind of didn't like that. I kind of like the feeling a little more enclosed and more of a path, and everything just felt so spread out. That felt a little too clean to me. I'm like, that's so weird.
Does it have the same kind of length like we have here at West, or did it?
No,
it's like shorter.
Yeah, it's very differently laid out.
Yeah,
I feel like everything just feels more like a web. Like everything's more laid out for the area. But like I said, it's a completely different place. So
yeah. I mean, that's one thing I like about the resistance area is like you kind of feel like you're going through the forest and then you just happen to find the resistance or rebellion like in this like secluded away as far as it could be from the First Order and the main area. So it kind of feels like a little bit more.
Also, I did give myself away a lot because I'm used to. I mean, granted, I'm a regular at Batuu West. And there are so many things that us California folk are big babies, and we didn't have there. They don't. I went to grab lunch during my break. Between. I went and I'm like, hey, could I grab a Rontolis wrap? And they're like, a what? I'm like, a Rontolis wrap? And they're like, I don't know what that is. They don't have. I guess they don't have a Rontolis wrap. They only have the Ronto wrap and then the breakfast one. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. And there was a few things that I went and I asked, and it wasn't even their fault. They just don't have it. No one even knew what it was.
This actually, you're the first. I've never heard of this. Is it like there's a substitute for the Ronto part, the meat part, or?
Wait, you don't know about it either?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Granted, maybe that's. There's a vegan option. I'm not vegan, but I have a handful of people I know that are. But I just prefer that one because, like, just to me, like if I'm at the park and eating out there all day, I don't want like a hot dog or like pork or something really heavy.
Yeah.
It's essentially a vegan substitute.
Okay.
So it's just that instead.
Okay.
Mars likes it too. Mars actually, we kind of bonded on it when we met.
Nice.
You like the Rontolis? So I think it's less greasy too. It's just not as heavy.
Sure.
But it's good. That one, and then the Lucian hummus bread thing.
Yeah.
I think it's good too. That's also like meatless too.
Yeah. That's interesting.
You should try it. I think you'd like it.
Yeah. There's so many things at Disneyland and Batuu that I haven't tried yet. And usually I'm the type of person when I find what I like, I'll just get that every time. And so it's kind of hard to like maneuver, but I'll give it a shot based on your
I think
recommendation.
that's kind of why I'm stuck on the ones I have. The hummus one, the Felician one, and then the Rontola trap. I think those are my go-to. So same thing. I kind of don't try the other ones. I'm waiting for a Kashyyyk. Well, either good, but I just like asking for more because I'm obnoxious. I'm like, well, Kashyyyk, and they're like, we have a Wookiee. We have a negative. We need more. I'm pushing it because that's my OC's home planet. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah. What's yours? What's your home planet?
Lothal. Oh, okay, well,
Oh,
technically Jeddah.
so,
Technically Jeddah, and then
wait,
refugee
what do you mean
Lothal.
technically? What happened?
Uh, you don't know what happened on Jeddah? I
Oh, but so you moved.
Yeah. So born on
Okay,
Jeddah, moved to Lothal due to the
okay,
attack on the city there.
okay. But Jeddah still like people still inhabit it, right?
Sure.
It's just not on paper.
Yeah.
Okay, it hasn't been. It wasn't Alderaan.
Correct. It was pre the Death Star, the smaller Death Star.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because yeah, my OC's tied to the line of Baze Malbus and the
Okay.
partisans.
Do you
So
think do you also think it's weird that you in real life
yeah,
don't live far from Adam,
right. And
and in
he
your Star Wars life you still live close to him?
yeah,
You're both from Lothal, right?
we're both from Lothal. Yeah.
The irony, that's so
I
weird.
know, right? Isn't that crazy? Like how the world works in mysterious ways. That Yeah, but I forgot you the Kashyyyk thing. That I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it's just a my girls, my kiddos love Chewbacca,
Mm.
and I've liked Sheik forever. Especially during Jedi Fallen Order,
Mm.
that was like my favorite planet to go to. It was like who's what's a different planet that a lot of people don't go to, and I love whenever I say it because characters at the park always like side eye me. They're like, no human lives on Kashyyyk, and I'm like, well, I do, but it's just like my backstory is that my family were rebels that lived at a data collection facility, which is essentially the original Holoscan database
Okay.
that I'm rebuilding.
Yeah.
And the facility was attacked by the Empire, destroyed in the Juggler Retreat, and then I was a kid by myself. And the only reason I survived is because I was adopted by a passing tribe of Wookiee. That's like what I went with. So I'm like, yeah, no, I did grow up on your sheep. So,
Yeah.
and then I just get to go a lot. So
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna talk about backstories, man, let's get into it. My characters, I cosplay Baze, so I just like the actor, I like the costume a lot, and so my backstory is like Baze had a family, right? So I'm like him, and then my mom is his sister, and then my dad was part of the partisans. So
yeah.
like with Saw Gerrera, I wrote in my backstory that he was one of 30 in a surprise attack because he was with Anton Krieger. And if you know Anton Krieger, he was one of the 30 men that Luthen Vale had saw send in that trap in Andor, where he's like, how many? 30 men. 30 men. So he's one of 30. Yeah. And so the partisans got us off of Jeddah before the attack of the Death Star, and we were refugeed in Lothal when I was a kid. So that's how I.
Man, you really sifted out your story.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
Mine is vague on purpose. Mine's pretty vague.
Yeah. No, that dude. I love.
Anyone,
It's not that vague.
anyone that you would question only speaks Shuriwook, so you don't know. Who knows? No one knows.
I
You
I
can't.
I love story. I love creating stories. I'm big on D&D and stuff, so most of the time you have to kind of justify, well, not justify, but I like to justify where like the motivations for my character, because I just think it's more informed. And then also that as a player, but then as a DM, it helps because you can add so much conflict within the story as the game progresses with the characters, and it just makes a much more richer story and experience for everybody. So like on a smaller, more personal level where we could do Halcyon and Halcy-Con, I try to recreate that at home with my friends when we're playing our Star Wars D&D game. And so Ren Malbus, my OC, is one of many of my Star Wars characters. So it's a lot of fun. I have a good time. And I think that's why I appreciate like all the characters that Burgundy Squad comes with, and just the care that they put in, because it's such a great aspect of storytelling and creativity. I love it.
Yeah, it definitely like gives a lot of fuel for whenever I do work with people.
Yeah.
It's it's not hard to create stories. Thankfully, with a lot of people that we know, because there's already some foundation that's built. And then usually, what I tell everybody is like, they're like, "What are we gonna do? What are we gonna shoot?" And send me your bio, your kind of your Burgundy Squadron, or whatever your OCs. You know, most people have had droid smiths. I've had plenty other people that are like, "Oh, this is my thing. This is the name. This is where I'm from." Everyone has a little piece of it, and then just going off of there, then I'll craft that. I'm like, okay, well, why are you here? Why are what are we doing? And then it kind of, everyone always gives me credit to be like, wow, the story, like, and I appreciate it. I don't think I'm doing much. At least for me, maybe it is a skill, but for me, it doesn't feel like I'm doing much, because I'm essentially just placing a character here, and then I'm letting that develop. So I think we all innately have that Star Wars formula or guidelines. So I think it's very intuitive for us to just say, this character's here, and what would they do there? Why are they there? What connection to the it just kind of, it builds itself in a sense that I feel like.
But I mean, that differs from photographers, where it's just like, oh, pose in this way, or stand here because it looks cool, and hold it, or stand this way. I think the purposefulness of the photo, I think, just makes a better photo. And I think that's what's translating so well, is because you're asking them to think about it, and they are thinking about it, and they're like, oh, why would I touch this thing, or why would I put my hand up here? I think that's rad, dude. Like, that's way cooler than just a regular pose. So
yeah, I think that's thank you. And I think that goes a lot to the fact that, like, I'm a photographer. I've always, I've been a photographer for some time now, but I don't really think like a photographer. Like I ever have. I think like a filmmaker. That's what I'm doing. This is just a simplification of what I normally would do. So I think it's just like, instead of video, instead of acting, now we're putting you in a situation, posing you in a situation, like translating something, but in a still image.
Yeah.
So I think that's why naturally I kind of can't look at it a different. Like I always see people like, oh, pose here, do this, and and I'm like, I don't know how to do that. So it's like, just when we had the shoot with Adam and Kate, there's a corridor. It's actually the first photo, the one that you see, like the main one with the two of them. Yeah. And I kind of wrote it where I'm like, okay, we're going to come out of this corridor and essentially just exit, like emergency exit to one of the rides, I think. Saw it, I'm like, that, first of all, we don't have that at the other park. We need to come over here. This looks cool.
Yeah.
So I stuck them in. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to walk out. And they're like, what are we doing? Why are we here? I'm like, okay, you're coming out. You're kind of coming out of spaceport or sneaking out. We're doing this. And I want you to look up as if you're looking at the spaceport itself, like the tower, which wasn't in the vantage point. It was on our like side. But I'm like, we're going to mimic that. We're going to look up. And they did. And I love that shot because there's nothing in front of them.
Right.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like there's the side of Docking Bay 7.
Yeah.
But there's nothing there. Like there's just nothing.
Yeah.
But when you see that image, your mind tells you they're looking at something that has gravity. They're looking at a ship that's taking off. They're looking at something.
Yeah.
And their facial expressions tell you that. is kind of just like in awe, like, oh shoot, whoa, look at this.
Yeah.
So I think those small nuances of storytelling that we all kind of naturally see make it interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like I said, it's like I can't undo that. This is how I can shoot.
Yeah, no, don't undo anything. You're doing great, man. It just like your just approach is different from, I guess, the norm. I guess I would say, but it's so cool, and like I said before, it translates so well. If anyone listening who hasn't checked out Dee's Instagram, please do. It's in the description, because you make some, like I posted today in the stories. I was like, no, you're not going to see any cooler pictures than these. Like, you're not gonna see any cooler pictures than these. Look, they're all 17 or 20. How many shots you guys did? It was awesome, man.
and that means a lot. The fact that like I do appreciate when you guys say stuff like that, because especially in the Star Wars community, people are making such amazing things.
Yeah.
Daily. So the fact that people are like, this is, like you said, the coolest thing you're going to see today, I'm like, whoa, that's a lot to say, which I appreciate. I truly take all of that, with what it is, not just like, oh yeah, thanks. I don't, but I appreciate it. I really do.
Of course, man. Well, we appreciate you, and I appreciate you being on this show with me to kind of relive that crazy weekend that you had, putting your body on the line and safely coming back. I'm glad you guys all made it back safe. Where can people find you?
So you guys can find me on Instagram. My handle is Holoscan Database. My OC's name is the ISO, and I also have a website. You can basically find everything from my Instagram to my Linktree. If you guys ever want to book with me or chat about photography and stuff like that, you're welcome to hit me up. Yeah, pretty much where you can find me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, and you can find me here, the Rancor YouTube channel, on Instagram, on Etsy, on podcast networks now, Apple, Spotify. I'm everywhere, and I'm nowhere, like Burgundy's gone. But again, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure. We're going to have you on again, because you had a huge year. We talked about before. You had a huge year, so I'm going to have to, when you get back from your trips and, as the year wraps up, we'll get you back on the pod, because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me again. And let me know anytime. We'll make it happen.
Will do. And that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your galactic day. Punch it, Chewie. Boom. We're out of here. Burgundy Squad out. Bye, guys.